Hi everyone, thanks for stopping by and returning to the old world. Today, let's talk chaos, and will they be in the Warhammer Old World starter box? So, what is happening in the far north of the Warhammer Old World? I think quite a lot. So we know that the game is going to be set before the Great Chaos Incursion. Now, there is some debate, based on the information that's been provided to us by Games Workshop, around exactly when, before the Chaos Incursion, the game will be set. But I don't think that really matters for the purposes of this video, because such an incursion doesn't happen overnight. Although, having said that, maybe it does, as time moves differently in the Chaos Wastes. But if we look at the Imperial calendar and how things are probably working, I would suggest it didn't. Now, what was the incursion? Well, it was a mass invasion of the realms of men, particularly the realm of Kislev, led by a mighty champion of chaos. But this wasn't just one warband. It's not just one champion. Yes, there is this mighty warlord that has gathered and combined various forces and pretty much enslaved them to his will, driving them south in a quest for his own personal glory and ascent to demonhood. But there's multiple commanders, there's multiple champions involved. And putting a force like that together must have taken time. There must have been a process. So we know that Chaos Warlords are there constantly vying for power, artifacts, the eye and attention of the Dark Gods themselves. And it seems sensible to suggest that in the years prior to the Great Incursion, things must have been pretty hectic up in the Wastes, even more so than the usual diet of violence and orgy of bloodshed. And forces wouldn't just have been fighting it out there to establish dominance. We'd have seen some warlords testing the resolve of Kislev, the defences available. Likewise, I think we'd have seen forces driven south by the conflict happening within the Wastes. Those not willing to be subsumed into a greater force, but really unable to stand their ground against them. So driven really into the paths of the armies of Kislevs and the frontier boyars. This sounds overall like quite an interesting topic and pairing for a starter box, doesn't it? So we know that Games Workshop have recently released a bunch of new models for their Chaos range as part of Age of Sigmar, and from what I've seen online and the work people have done with their collections, these models can be put onto the old style square bases, albeit with a bit of effort. It's quite interesting. Now, if the old world is coming in 2023, as it is quite widely supposed will be the case, it seems sensible that you've kind of got one of the initial ranges ready to go right now. Ready in advance. So you're not trying to prepare and release two ranges simultaneously. Now, there had been an original strong rumour that the starter box would contain orcs and probably Empire, but certainly a human faction. Pretty generic, everyone can get on board with that. Seems pretty sensible. And I think that the update at the end of 2022, where we saw some concept art, certainly lent into that rumour a little, because we saw pictures for Bretonia and the Greenskins, along with the Tomb Kings. Any combination of Orcs in Bretonia or Tomb Kings in Bretonia would have made good sense for the lore, for the setting, and given some interesting different play styles and some nice models for the box. But the rumour mill has definitely moved away from this as an idea. And it seems now a really strong contender is Kislev against Chaos. Now, this might be that it's just a rumour that's built up momentum and has taken on a bit of a life of its own and is now the assumed position. But it may also be that somebody knows that there's a little bit of information out there, and that has informed the rumour that's going around. I don't know the answer to that. All I know is it seems that momentum has swung behind the idea of Chaos versus Kislev being the starter box. And actually, I think that would be pretty cool. There's big differences between what these armies look like and how they play. Or probably will be. Kislev is known for its light cavalry, horse archers, winged lancers, and those models back in the day, the classic winged lancers, were really cool models. Against that, hordes of chaos epitomised by the heavy tread of the chaos warrior, the ground shaking beneath the inexorable advance, and the beating of drums made of human skin. Quite an interesting clash. Of course, both sides supported by a range of other troops, be it light, medium infantry, ice magic potentially of Kislev, against the hordes of tribal warriors on horseback and monstrous creatures for Chaos. So yeah, a really interesting mix of aesthetic, play styles, and something that could definitely fit the setting and what's going on in the north, leading up to one of the most important stories of the Warhammer lore, which is that great incursion of Chaos before it is eventually thrown back by the forces of Kislev, Magnus the Pious of the Empire, dwarves, and the contingents of the High Elves. A period of epic conflict, which can be covered quite nicely. And the more I think about it, the more I like the idea of this as the starter box. It just makes sense. Sure, Empire or Bretonia versus Orcs, it's a classic, it's pretty cool. Empire versus Orcs obviously was I think it was the 6th Ed box set, if memory serves. And the only reason I can think of that perhaps this wouldn't make a good starter set is whether there's too much of a reflection of things that are actually going on in reality. Kislev is, for want of a better description, a fantasy version of Poland, Lithuania. And we all know, when we're looking at Eastern Europe, what's happening there with regards to large-scale invasions. Now, maybe that's just me reading too much into it. Maybe it will play a bit of a part in Games Workshop's thinking that it's too close to touching a nerve. But assuming that it doesn't, then I can really see Kislev versus Chaos being an interesting box set, and one that, packed full of interesting, exciting models, will be something that will really wet people's lips and get them wanting to buy into the new stories, the new adventures, and the new models. What do you think? Do you agree that Chaos versus Kislev makes sense? Do you think that there's a particularly exciting storyline to be had out of what's going on in the Chaos Wastes? Do let me know in the comments below. If you have enjoyed listening to me trundle on with my thoughts on this topic, do please consider subscribing. I do cover a range of concepts and sort of hobby progress things across the channel. We'll be looking to do more of that as the months unfold of 2023. That just leaves me to say thank you very much for listening. I'm Return to the Old World. Have a great day.